Sometimes you have to say goodbye, and sometimes it's hard. This is one of those hard times, so here we go. Pat, I came to AOPA officially on December 1st, 2014. I actually started earlier than that in August or September with a call from the great and powerful Katie Pribble. And I don't know what her title was exactly, but I think it was Queen of all things aeronautical.
He probably was.
And because of that, I ended up at the AOPA facility in Frederick, Maryland, interviewed with everybody, and ended up interviewing with Mark Baker, the CEO who had come in just a year before and was making sweeping changes. And now, 11 years after he started, Mark is getting ready to retire. And I think we're both in agreement. We owe a lot to Mark Baker, you and I individually, and aviation as a whole. So it's worth having a farewell to Mark episode for all the work he's done with AOPA on behalf of all of us who are involved in general aviation.
Yeah, I've been an AOPA member, a paying AOPA member for as long as I can remember. I'll just put it that way. And I can remember meeting various AOPA presidents over the years before I was working for the organization. But I remember meeting Mark and thinking, boy, this is the right guy for the time. And I was right. Mark has been he's been remarkable. So, yeah, we need to kind of raise a glass and toast his tenure and acknowledge the accomplishments. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Well, I'm not sure it's important, but it's worth mentioning that in a tangential way, Mark Baker's the reason you and I even met, because I had been at AOPA for, I don't know, 6, 7 months, maybe a year, not quite a year, when I was dispatched to go talk you into taking a job with the company. And we found out at that gathering, we had all these mutual friends from the music business.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a vast conspiracy. But yeah, you and I ended up having a beer after I think it was a Rusty Pilot seminar or something there at one of the campuses close to Lakeland, and realizing that we had a lot in common. I remember you asked me, as I had a Cirrus at the time. And I remember you saying that you had a friend in Houston that had a Cirrus, and I said, who is it? Because it was a kind of a small community.
Yeah.
And you told me who it was, and I said, well, that's my partner in the Cirrus. So
Aviation is such a small world. It's amazing for that. I love it. Well, let's tick off some of the accomplishments that AOPA has had because of Mark and his vision. And I got to say right up front, I fly under BasicMed, as do about 80,000 other pilots right now.
yeah.
And that's a huge change that I personally appreciate. And I really believe down to the bottom of my boots that if Mark and AOPA hadn't got behind that, it might not have happened.
Well, it was a 50-year process, 50 years that it took to get that done. And finally, all the stars aligned, and AOPA certainly was one of the real movers and shakers behind getting that one done, because it had to be done legislatively. The FAA wasn't doing it, so it had to be done legislatively. And the interesting thing about getting legislation through that I learned over the years is that only about 2% of bills that are submitted for consideration actually make it all the way to the president's desk for a signature. So, boy, we beat the odds on that one.
Yeah, and when you've got better than 10% of the pilot population flying on BasicMed, and that's not ATPs and that's not student pilots, that's you and me, the people in the middle, that's a heck of an accomplishment. I will be forever grateful for that. Now, I can still pass a first-class medical, but I like BasicMed. I get to see my regular doctor, and I owe that to Mark and AOPA.
Right. And, I mentioned Rusty Pilot, which is where we met. That program started. In fact, Mark Grady and I wrote the original Rusty Pilot program and beta tested it around the country for, if memory serves, about 18 months or 2 years to kind of prove that it had some validity. and it was met with such positivity that AOPA kind of improved it and made it a little bit, a little bit more professional looking and things like that. But we've been doing the Rusty Pilot Seminar now for, gosh, Jamie, how long has it been? 7 or 8 years anyway. It might have been a little longer than that, but we've got.
I think it's closer to 8. But that falls under the banner of the You Can Fly program, which was the brainchild of Mark Baker and Katie Pribble.
Yeah.
Because at that time, 10 years ago, pilot numbers were going down, and they had been going down for a number of years, which concerned them. And they kind of put their heads together. What could AOPA do to start turning those numbers around? They came up with the concept of You Can Fly program. First step, of course, was to hire me. Second step was to hire you. And I really was, I think, the first person through the door. But there are a number of components to the You Can Fly program that have been successful beyond our wildest dreams, and they continue. One of them being that Rusty Pilots program. And I just did one not long ago. You still do them.
Yeah.
I get great satisfaction out of it because you're dealing with a group of people who have not flown in quite some time. Although sometimes I get airline pilots who haven't flown VFR in a long time.
Yeah.
But what's the number on that? I mean, it's over 10,000. It's a significant group of people who are back current again.
Actually, it's closer to 14,000. Yeah, is a number that I've got. And you mentioned airline pilots as kind of a part of the You Can Fly program. The Rusty Pilot thing has actually been expanded to something called Back to Your Roots, which is essentially Rusty Pilots, a Rusty Pilot program for professional pilots who are perfectly current and proficient at what they do, flying in the flight levels, but may not be able to remember what Class G airspace is because they're in IFR all the time.
I've had airline guys ask me what airspace, because it's the same for them from the time they sit down to the time they get up at the end of the flight. So.
Yeah, but it's for those that that program was put together, and I was privileged to be able to have a pretty significant hand in putting that one together too. We just released it about 6 months ago, including an online version. But that one is for people that want to get back into flying little airplanes, but are perfectly current and capable of flying the big stuff, and they do it all the time. But they just don't remember what Class G airspace is.
Again, that's just a remarkably successful program. As you say, almost 14,000 people who had no idea how to get back to it after 5 or 10 or 30 years out of the cockpit.
Yeah.
That Rusty Pilot program is done in conjunction with flying clubs and flight schools. So there's a place to go to get the flight training. We do the ground portion. It's a tremendous success, which brings us to the point, the next part of the You Can Fly flying clubs.
Yeah.
Mark belonged to a flying club when he was a teenager. He started flying very young. He saw the value of them. And while they're very popular in Europe, they're not very popular in the United States. So we started working on that, putting together tools and resources. So if you want to start a flying club, so it's cheaper to get access to an airplane, so there's a social component, you have some support. And to this date, I think it's over 250 flying clubs we've helped start across the country. You extrapolate that to multiple members per club. That's thousands of people who now have affordable access to an airplane because of the vision Mark brought for You Can Fly.
Yeah, the number that I have is 255. And I can remember over the years that I was doing the AOPA ambassador job here in Houston, we were able to get, if memory serves, 23 flying clubs started just in the state of Texas. And so, that was that was a fulfilling opportunity, to be able to help get those things started. But headquarters has taken that over pretty much, they continue to do just a remarkable job in getting flying clubs started, and not just started, but helping them grow and thrive and be successful in what can be challenging conditions.
I just had an email this morning from a guy who's part of a flying club I helped start 6 years ago. I maintain relationships with those folks, even though it's not my job anymore. But yeah, one time you and I were putting together 4 or 6 clubs a year each, no
Yeah,
problem.
easy.
This is fantastic. Which leads us to another component of the You Can Fly. Is it a stool? Is it a three-legged stool? It might be.
It could be.
How do you get young people involved in aviation in a meaningful way? That's a challenge because young people, let's face it, Pat, if a 16-year-old kid comes to us and says, "Hey, can I borrow your car?" The answer is probably going to be no.
Yeah.
But if some kid says, "Hey, I want to get involved in aviation, can you help me?" Yes, we can. And one of the ways we can do that is AOPA developed a 4-year high school STEM curriculum, which is available to any school in the United States, public, private, charter, homeschool, co-op. If you want to get your kids involved in STEM education using aerospace as a tool, it's free. And they even do teacher training. And do you know how many schools are doing that now? It's a big number with a lot of students.
It's over 1,400. The number I have seen recently is 1,430. That number will probably go up um, in the coming months as schools begin to reapply, well, apply initially or reapply for the following year. Typically, those numbers go up pretty substantially year over year. So 1,430 is the number that I've got right now. And what that extrapolates out to is about 4,000 students that have actually started flying. I'm talking about high school kids that have actually started. 211 of them, by our current numbers, have actually achieved their private pilot certificate. And another 17, almost 1,800 have taken one or more of their knowledge tests. But primarily, those are the UAS tests. But
Mhm.
it's been remarkable. It's been remarkable, and of course, and we can talk about this at some point. AOPA scholarship program.
I was about to go there because there's a girl I met when she was 16, told me she wanted to be an airline pilot and she was involved in the STEM program at her high school. We worked together. I took her on her first flight and filmed it. She was great. It was terrific. I'm meeting her this Saturday over on the east coast of Florida because she's just gotten a scholarship to continue her flight training. This girl's well on her way. She's going to do fine. But AOPA also offers a significant number of flight training scholarships, not just to students, also to teachers, so that we can inspire these folks. And a teacher teaching the STEM class who actually knows how to fly, it's awesome. And I think I told you the other day, I was just over in Temple Terrace by Tampa, a private school that's using the STEM curriculum. Their teacher is working on his private certificate, and I'm actually about to email him today and connect him to a flight instructor. So all this stuff links together. It's a remarkable hand in glove situation. And Pat, I don't think we'd be here without the vision and the leadership of this guy from Minnesota, Mark Baker. And, I can't thank him enough. He's changed our lives and everybody involved in general aviation, whether you know it or not. Mark Baker has had a profound impact on your ability to continue flying wherever you want.
That's right. So hats off and salute to Mark.
Absolutely. I hope he has a great retirement, and I hope we don't lose track of the boy because he's kind of fun to hang out with. And I mean, he really is a nice guy. I don't know if I ever told you this, but we were up in Pensacola for an event once, and the weather just turned to dog crap. I mean, it was bad. And I'm in a 152. And we're at dinner the last night of this event. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to be here for a couple more days because this system is kind of stalled out. And Mark just goes, I'm in the King Air. I can give you a ride home. So I flew right seat in the King Air the next day, and Mark flew me 3 hours to get home and then went on his way. Just the nicest man in the world.
Yeah, that was a good taxi ride right there, I think.
It really was. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Pat, thanks for covering this. And I just thought this was worth us doing. And I know you're on board too, because
Yeah.
this has been a remarkable ride. And to be able to use our aviation careers to help other people under the banner of AOPA, which no matter how you feel about things politically, AOPA really does an enormous amount of good for general aviation. And that really comes down to the leadership. And Mark and his lieutenant, Katie, made all this happen. And I will be forever thankful, as I know you will.
as I will be too. So, Mark, congratulations. Enjoy your retirement. Thanks for everything you did and continue to do for aviation and blue skies, and hope you have many more years to fly.
Thanks for the job, boss. I hope I made you proud. I'll see you down the road. And for the rest of you, click like on this. Give us a comment. How has AOPA or Mark Baker helped you? How has Pat Brown helped you? Just let us know. And of course, subscribe to the channel, because without you, we're nothing. Hey, see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Adios.